I'm really excited to have one of the senior partners from Baker Tilly join me. I did have to convince him a little bit, but he finally agreed. So I am very excited to have him. Adam Grinde, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I knew if I complimented you enough on the videos you were doing, you'd ask me to do one. So here I am. It's good to be here. Good to be here.
Adam and I have known each other since the day I started at Baker Tilly. My office was close to his, so someone that I have a ton of respect for, and someone who's been very helpful to me. So, Adam, if you want to really quickly just give give us a little bit of background on you.
Yeah. I'm a Chicago person. Was born here north of the city. Started my career with Deloitte 1994. Was lucky enough to go overseas with them. I lived 2.5 years in Osaka, Japan, which kind of got me an international sort of client service. Here at Baker Tilly, I currently serve the Illinois business unit as the manufacturing and distribution team leader. Other roles I've had with Baker Tilly, much along the international theme. I was the firm leader for international services for about 5 years, and I still serve clients on a daily basis.
Great, awesome. So we'll get right into it then. Since COVID started, what are you and Baker Tilly doing to serve your clients, and what's been the biggest challenges and some of the solutions that you've been able to give?
Yeah, well, for those who watch this video at some later date, it's May 28th, so we've been in this pandemic for a while. It's starting to feel normal, which I never thought I would say. So I think your question is, what were some of the challenges? And I think the biggest challenge, as I sort of reflect on things, was just the quickness upon which all of this came. I was actually out of town at a client when all the sports seasons got canceled and travel was curtailed and universities shut down and so on and so forth. So really our team, our whole firm has had to become very comfortable with the new normal very quickly. Our clients expect us to show up every day, whether it's pandemic or not. We're spending a lot more time as everybody on phone calls, Zoom calls, dealing with things through email, and finding that we're actually accomplishing quite a bit, not being able to see each other as much in person.
So you're saying the biggest challenges have been just not seeing each other in person and not being at the client site?
We thought well, no, I think the biggest challenge was the quickness to get used to all of it, because we didn't have any time to breathe. It was basically one day we're at clients and the next day the audits are due and the tax returns need to be completed. And so, yeah, I just think it was the quickness. In terms of like technology, we've all become a lot better at it. I think our CIO recently gave stats on our Zoom calls, and I think they're like 1,000% or more, than it ever was. I think we're also finding ways to complete audits, complete tax work without being in person, and that has a lot to do with our technology as well.
Got it. And obviously we've had some really good technology updates, which have made things a lot more efficient here for us too. So in terms of like companies right now that depend on services from public accounting firms, with the new normal, what's the biggest concerns that you're seeing that clients or prospective companies have with using public accounting firms right now?
Yeah, I think we're both feeling our way through the new relationship, both the client and the public accounting firm, Baker Tilly. I think our clients are concerned about, are we still going to be able to deliver the service on time, the quality of the service on time? How are we going to be hindered in terms of we can't do things in person for the time being? But I think, they initially didn't have a time to think about that. Now, as the dust is settling, I think they're looking ahead to next year, wondering, well, what's the engagement going to look like? How am I going to interact with Baker Tilly now that I can't, meet with them in person? Or even some of the deadlines have changed. How are these deadlines going to have an impact on my business? And how is Baker Tilly going to help me get there? So I think there's just enough unknowns to make people a little uncomfortable. But like I said, the dust is settling, and I think every day we're getting a little bit more comfortable with this new normal and perhaps what the next new normal is going to be.
Got it. So with finance leaders that you work with, CFOs, I guess what's the advice that you have from your perspective and your experience as we come out of 3 months almost now, being in shelter in place? Like, what's the advice that you have for them?
Well, I guess advice I would have for them would be the same I'd have for myself, is a little bit of one day at a time. I came into this pandemic thinking I'm an introvert by nature. I kind of like this. But then there were periods where I didn't like it. I didn't like the isolation. I didn't like the inability to interact with people in a live manner, because that's how we communicate. A lot of our big portion of our communication happens that way. But I think taking it one day at a time, knowing that the next day might be better, I think is certainly something to think about. I think you have to be more intentional with the communication. You can't rely on just bumping into somebody in the office or, talking to your client out in the field. You have to be intentional. You have to set up time. You have to call them. You have to make time for them. And the last thing I guess I was thinking about, I heard this Scott Kelly, the astronaut who lived in space for I think over a year. He talked about putting his mind in the future, kind of like, I think he called it mind time travel, which sounds kind of crazy. But I think his idea was, it's tough being in space, so I should put my mind, to the day when I return to Earth, and he can see his family and friends and talk about his experience. And that helped him through the year in space. And I think right now in the pandemic, if we can put our mind a little bit towards where our business will be, where we individually will be. And I think a lot of businesses are trying to figure out, what is my industry going to be like? What kind of products and services is the market going to want? And do I have the ability to offer those or prepare to offer those right now? So just thinking ahead, I guess, is the point. It's a long way of getting to that point.
No, and I mean, that makes absolute sense. I've heard the comment from all the CFOs that I talk to, and like asking them what their main focus is. And I just wanted your opinion on this. Everyone says cash is king right now, more than anything else. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's important. Our own firm, when this pandemic came upon us, we tightened down a number of things, including our spend, internal and external. We are concerned now that we're offering a lot of services and we're pretty busy as a firm. I think our industry is generally pretty busy. The question is, can all companies pay? There's going to be, and there are, a number of companies who are struggling through this pandemic quite mightily. And so what is that going to do to payment terms? So that goes along with cash is king. I think now, 2 months into it, we are feeling a little more comfortable, but I think that's because of the initiatives we put in place and the things we did as a firm to not only protect, the sustainability of our firm, but to prepare ourselves to continue to serve clients in the future, because obviously that's what's important.
Right. Perfect. I mean, that's really it. That's all I really wanted to cover with you. I know you and I have talked like 3-4 different times, and especially like the team calls and things like that. So great to see that the beard is, I was hoping to see the beard still on, but the beard game is done.
That was a Mother's Day present to my wife. I shaved the beard. The quarantine beard is gone.
I'm sure she appreciates that, but I really appreciate the time, Adam, and I'm glad that you finally agreed to do this.
Anytime. Thanks, Benny.